Hello, and welcome to another edition of Enta Asks. With us today is Dr. Wilma Slenders, founder and president of Transcend Management Advisors, Inc. For over 25 years, Wilma has helped clients, individuals, and corporations perform better, grow faster, and achieve more. She helps her clients change to be more successful by offering executive coaching, strategic consulting, and leadership training. Welcome, Wilma.
Thank you, Adam.
Welcome, Wilma. Tell us how you came up with the name Transcend.
When I first was starting my company, I wanted a really strong word, and for some reason I thought it needed to be a T word. So transform, transcend, definitely not transact, but really something that represented change, because that's really what I'm about and what my company is about. It's about creating change both individually and corporately. So transcend, if you think about it, has a number of different layers of meaning. So when you transcend, you move from one level or one state to the other. So that's the whole change piece. But you could also be transcending in a different kind of form. So it's not necessarily physical transcendence, but also mental mindset shift. So for me, it had multi-layers of meaning that really appealed to me, because we transcend at many different levels and at different times. So the team word that was really important. And at the time, company names often were consultants, so it could be Transcend Management Consultants, but I just chose to go with Transcend Management Advisors because it portrays something a little bit different. So it stood out more than being just another management consultant.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that transcend. And speaking of transcending COVID, working from home, what a relevant concept. So how can leaders keep their teams motivated and engaged when they are working from home now?
Well, I think there's some additional challenges when you have your team working from home. And so I think in some cases it's doing more of. So I'm going to talk about 5 key things that I think are important. So caring, compassion, connection, direction, and optimism. So those are the key things that I think a leader really needs to focus on in these times.
Excellent. Tell us about caring. Let's start there.
Caring's about really trying to understand what's going on for your team. It's about asking them how they are, but actually really meaning how they are. So how are you really doing? Not just I'm great, I'm fine, and just move on to another topic. So it's actually taking that time to have a real conversation with the team member. And so one of the ways that I see leaders stepping up into being more caring is actually connecting with their teams on a daily basis. So 15-minute short meetings at the start of the day, and then contacting them individually during the day or once every 2 days, just to really have that personal conversation.
Excellent. Yeah, everybody always says I'm fine.
Yes, of course.
Fine.
And then usually we move on because that's what we do in society, right? That's what society's trained us to do. We don't really want to hear the answer. We just want to hear someone say fine.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that plays well into that compassionate piece, right? Like you actually want to know, right? You're compassionate. You want to hear if they're struggling, right?
Exactly. So on the compassion side, I think that the caring certainly comes into it. Compassion is also really about trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So actually trying to understand some of what their experience is. And we know that people are having experiences where, the kids aren't going to school and they need to homeschool, right? Their spouse may not be working in an office either. So there's all these additional dynamics that are going on that don't exist in an office environment. And so the leader, I think, needs to realize some of what's going on, but also be sometimes more compassionate in terms of, I understand why that person didn't meet the deadline or didn't complete this deliverable because there are so many other things going on. So now I think is the time to be more human and humane in terms of behavior. So compassion is really a big part of that.
And it'll put a lot in the trust bank, right?
Absolutely. And the next one, next point that I was going to mention is connection. And so related to connection, so I talked about connecting with the team quite often. Also, you mentioned, Caitlin, trust. And so trust is, you can define it as the willingness to be vulnerable. And so that oftentimes leaders feel like they need to have all the answers, right? They need to be that really strong person, is kind of the ironclad, not really feeling anything. And so to create connection, leaders need to share some of their own vulnerability. And that can be as simple as saying, I'm frustrated too with having to work from home, or, I've had my ups and downs in terms of this roller coaster with regards to COVID. So it's not, being vulnerable is not oversharing, but it is sharing your emotions so that, again, people see that human side and understand that it's not them going through it. So, creating the connection by being vulnerable. But then also, some of the counsel that I've given to the leaders that I work with is using that as an example to role model behavior for their people. So sharing some vulnerability, and then an example in the past when I felt this way, these are the things that I did. And perhaps that might be able to help you, Mr. and Ms. team member, in terms of how you're doing and how you're feeling.
Yeah, I love that example of being a positive role model, right? If I can be a positive influence and share my struggles, I'm not perfect by any means either, but that will really help establish, as you said, that connection. So when I am trying to provide some direction and kind of this is the way we're going, it's very much better received, I would imagine.
Absolutely, because you want to be able to relate. And so a leader just saying, we're going this way and we're still going to do everything the way that we used to, really doesn't cut it very well with people in terms of a crisis situation. Not that it usually works very well either, right? But in this kind of situation, we need to have more of that, as I said, that humanness in terms of how we deal with each other.
Definitely. And I love that this is going to go right into that last point, optimism. This is a hard one right now for people not to put on the negative hat and live in that zone. So how do we do that?
Well, I think people are looking to their leaders for both direction, not necessarily the final plan, what's going to happen over the next 6 months or a year, but maybe even just the next step, right? They want to have confidence that their leaders are thinking about the right things in terms of moving the company forward. So that's the direction piece. But associated with that is also the optimism piece, that positivity, right? Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to come out of it better. You're all going to be good. We're all going to be good, right? So it's not over the top optimism or positivity. Is somewhat measured. So, we live in a realistic environment, but not dwelling on the negativity. So actually, that's a part of a leader's role, is to create that compelling vision and mission for the future. So I see the direction and the optimism piece come together there in terms of, what can we expect moving forward? The worst thing for a team member to hear from their leader is, what, I have no idea where we're going, and I think this is going to crash, right? I mean, who's going to be motivated to do any work if you hear something like that from your leader?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I really like how you stated it's realistic optimism, right? Like, we know it's not going to be better next week or maybe even a month, but we will stay positive. We will keep working, and we're a team. We have each other, right?
Absolutely. Those are the kind of words. And it's, I've got to say, Adam and Caitlin, it's very interesting. Some of the leaders, the more senior leaders that I'm working with, we've had to have these conversations. So a lot of times we expect leaders to know what they need to do, but they don't, right? And some of the senior leaders that I work with, and I'm sure that you work with, they're in some ways somewhat removed from some of the realities of what, you know, people like you and me, normal people who have to work, you know, have mortgages, etc., what their reality is, right? And so leaders typically look at the situation from their own perspective, and I think don't really think about what is other people's reality. And so that's why these 5 points that I mentioned are so important, because it's that ability to relate to the experience that their team is going through, even if that's not their experience. Right?
Yeah, it's so true. And you talked about the compassion piece and the caring and putting yourself in their shoes. If you know, if I didn't have a mortgage right now and I didn't have a young family, and the stress level would have been significantly lower. You know, there's still stress, it's still a crisis, but lower than what it currently is. And so you're absolutely right. If they're putting it from their lens, they might not have all of these additional stresses and that their employees do, right? And ones that I wouldn't even be aware of. So it's so true. I really like how you put that lens on for your leaders to say, you can't always look at it from your perspective, look at it from somebody else's. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wilma. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. You had some really fantastic points.
Thank you. My pleasure being with you today.
We are going to use all of them: the caring, the compassion and connection, direction and optimism, and we are going to get through this.
We are.
There we go.
That's great.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Wilma.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.